How's everybody doing? I didn't know what time I would be doing a stream tonight, but I did want to get something live on the air. A lot of things to talk about. Not sure how many of them I'm going to get through. Now, I know usually I, break my word when I say I'm going to go short. Today, my neck's actually hurting, so I don't know if I'll be able to pull through and talk about everything that I want to. But I do want to say, first of all, before I forget, before people start trolling me and saying, oh, you don't know how to eat crow or whatever. Congratulations to the Eagles. I can't say that I'm happy that they won the Super Bowl. I am happy that the Patriots didn't. I think that it is a pretty interesting story that this is a team that they had an amazing regular season with Carson Wentz, who was a quarterback coming from a small school in the middle of nowhere in, the Big Sky country, I think it was North Dakota, but I could be wrong. He gets injured. Can you hear me better now, Pinochet? I can put on headphones. Somebody's telling me, Pinochet's telling me that my mic is a little garbled. My mark is a little garbled. I'll put on headphones if that helps. Let me know. See, there's a couple more people entering. We're just talking about the Super Bowl. Hello? Hey guys, is this a little better? Can you hear me better now? Any answer, anytime. Pinochet, Gurky, let me know. Sure says your bookshelf is a mess. That's becoming a theme right now. Maybe even a meme. I don't know. Let me see if I can hear. You know what? I don't know if I can restart it or just 1 second. How does it sound now? You guys have to be quicker on the reply. Shara said it's a man cave. Well, it's a pretty fucking small man cave. What about the sound? Does it sound better? It still sucks? All right. If that's the way it is, I can hang up and we can try again. I don't know what the hell is going on. How bad is it? You sound like you're underwater at best. Let me see if I can change this. Okay, now I have it loud. Does that sound any better, guys? Could have too many windows open or something. See if I can get rid of some of this crap. All right, we're going to hang up and we're going to try again. And if that doesn't work, we're just going to call it a night. How does that sound, guys? So meet me back here in 2 minutes. Let's see if I can get. So you know what? I'm going to mute this. I'm going to turn off my camera, and then I'm going to start a new stream So in the meantime, don't go anywhere. And then I'll come on. I'll just put a word in the chat. The Vinnie Mac Show says, "Are you Neo from the Matrix?" The Vinnie Mac Show. Can you tell me if the mic sucks like everybody else is saying, or are they playing with me? Anyway, how's it going? Can anybody hear me now? I just tried redoing it. How's it sound? I can see there's some static on the camera too. Way better. Pinochet says it's way better. Gurky, what do you say? 5:9? What the hell does that mean? Am I some sort of illiterate or something? I don't know what that means. Somebody came up to me today. He asked me a thermodynamic problem. And I think he didn't think that I'd actually be able to get it. But believe it or not, even if I wasn't good at the other stuff at engineering school, I was pretty good at thermo. But he wouldn't listen to me. He was talking about, whether saliva would freeze or not, if it had the same specific heat as water. I said, well, it doesn't have the same specific heat as water. Anyway, that's an old aside. It's just a funny incident from today. So we're going to try to get through as much as possible in as short of a time. My neck is it's just killing me right now. But yeah, when I left off talking about the Super Bowl, yes, many of you probably did not really pay attention to the Super Bowl. Some of you maybe because you don't give a shit. I think I can adjust the stream count. Yeah, I can. Here, that should make it even better. What do you guys think? I just adjusted the stream quality down, so that might improve it. So anyway, the Philadelphia Eagles, you have Nick Foles. He comes in, fills in for Carson Wentz, who was, he was the story of the whole season. Then I think he tore his Achilles, and he leads the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I'm a Cowboys fan. Could not root for that team. The fucking Eagles. I'll be honest with you. I've never hated the Eagles as much as I've hated Washington or the Giants. But their fans are fucking assholes, and they're currently burning down their city. Which I guess that's the natural reaction to them. I actually posted a feed from that, and I'll patch that into you guys. So they just come in and let me see here. I gotta get the mute on because then it just explodes in my ear. So I'm gonna share the screen with you. So yeah, there you go. This is the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl parade. And you can see all the love and warm, fuzzy feelings here after, what is it, 58 years without a title. You see them, so I guess good for them. Anyway, look, they did win. Good for them. And I'm not afraid to say that a team that I hate, they won the title fair and square, and they played pretty well. Now, the Patriots also, they put up an amazing effort to stay close in the game. That both teams, they were very, Pinochet says they wore dark uniforms, and then he gives the black power salute right back at you, Pinochet. Anyway, so these people, the Patriots, they also played an amazing game keeping tight with the offense because neither defense was stopping much. And in fact, there were a lot of run plays that really went for a lot longer than they should have. And there were broken tackles, and there was, and in some cases, I think there was a Rex Burkhead reception from Tom Brady that I was stunned how open he was in the Philadelphia secondary, which I thought was one of the better defenses during the season. They are. Is that you, Chris Farley? Well, Lottie frickin' da. Lottie frickin' da. I just need the tie and the flannel sports coat, and I'm Chris Farley, aren't I? The Lone Wolf. Welcome to our podcast, and keep the trolling up. You have a lot of competition here from Pinochet. In any case, yeah, we also have to close the NFL season, and I think that this has to be the worst NFL season I've ever experienced. Floyd and Pink says, "Is it true that the Eagles never won one before?" They did win an NFL title, but it was before the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl started in 1967, and the Eagles last won it in 1960 when there was only one league, the NFL. Or both leagues had their own title game. They didn't even play each other. So, yeah, the Eagles have won before, but it's almost like you're talking about a different sport back then. And from now on, I think we're going to be talking about a different sport in the NFL too, because it's and maybe on the field it won't seem as such, but we're talking about a game that has largely played itself out. Got to check the online specs on the rotary girder. You know what? That's one of my favorite lines from from Tommy Boy. Pinochet just put in the chat. This is why I hate that I can't keep the chat for the videos. I'll have to figure that out someday. But he took one of my favorite lines from Tommy Boy. Anyway, so the NFL, the season is over. And I have to say that for many people, they are done with the NFL, period. Because they don't see the league as being responsive to the actual desires of its own fan base. What they've been trying to do for years, and you can see that by them having more games in London. This year they had a game in Mexico, which I think is actually a good idea, because I think there's far more interest in Mexico than in a lot of other countries for the NFL. They're trying to expand into more markets, but to be honest with you, I don't think many parents are trying to get their kids into football as opposed to other sports now. There's a lot of health concerns. Parents are they're just not. I guess that they're not. They don't see their kids as being durable enough anymore. I guess to each his own. I'm not trying to say that you should have your kid play football and get injured. There are kids who have been paralyzed in college, playing college football. What's he supposed to do then? Your life is pretty much fucked. But then, as Floyd and Pink is saying, politicizing sport is dumb. And Floyd and Pink, you might be from the UK or one of those countries. Yeah, there's in a certain sense, yeah, there's relationships between sports and politics. Of course, I've heard that certain football teams in Europe, football meaning actual football, not American football, Some of them are associated with certain political streams. In Italy, for example, Livorno is associated with the left. Lazio is associated with the far right. Floyd and Pink says from New Zealand. Well, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it works down there. Pinochet says college ball is dope. It's more like gladiator style. I like college basketball much more. I like college basketball because you actually see people. They have only a few opportunities to really make it big, and they know. And I'm trying to like minimize the fact that there's a lot of corruption in the game, because I like to talk about that too. That's kind of one of the reasons why I probably wouldn't be good on a sports talk show, because all of them are like that right now. We're going to get to that in a second. The issue of politics in sports that Floyd is talking about. So the issue with politicizing the game is that eventually you get some of these teams become identified with a certain side of the aisle, and other ones the opposite side of the aisle. That becomes a problem in certain constituencies. So, if I remember last year that some of these far left people were saying, "Oh, if you support the Patriots, you must be a Trump supporter." But that's ridiculous, because the New England geographical area where the Patriots are located, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, very, very progressive area, very, very large Democratic voter bloc. So it's complete nonsense. The idea that you have to just politicize everything in sports is ridiculous. And I think I had a little respite from that today. Pinochet says he's just started getting into Formula One, and boom, they take away the prods. I disavow. I talked about that yesterday on the Anthony stream. I think you might have seen that. Larry Gerke says yes, but no Russia in the Olympics. That's not political, though. Hello. Yeah, you know what? Banning Russia from the Olympics. I know maybe they did something wrong with the doping, but then what's the point? Russia always has one of the more entertaining delegations at Olympics. Floyd and Pink says the 90s was when Formula One started sucking. There's a couple amazing films about Formula One. One is Rush. It came out a few years ago with Ron Howard as the director, and I think Chris Hemsworth was the lead, and then there was another lead whose name I forget. That's an amazing movie. And then there's a documentary called Senna, about Brazilian Formula One racer Ayrton Senna. And that one, you want to talk about documentaries, you want to talk about camera work, you want to talk about action and suspense, and talking about real issues, and danger and safety in a sport, a real sport. You have to watch Senna. It's Senna. And that will get you. That's a movie about sports. That's a movie about what really makes competition, draw people in and keep them riveted to the screen. And people laugh at motorsports. They say, "Oh, there's just a bunch of fucking jocks running around a fucking race," and Larry just cracked me up. And they don't have any. There's no goal in mind. No, you watch this, and you see this is somebody, he very sophisticated person. Why are your messages keep getting blocked? You have to watch it. These people, they're racing for their own, yes, it's their own ego, but it's almost like they're chasing the completion of who they are. And I'm not going to ruin the movie for you, because let's just put it. He doesn't get what he wants. Let me just put it that way. Ayrton Senna, and I put the name in the chat. Senna. So, what else are we talking about today? So, what about that politicization of sports? How is it ruining it? Look, it didn't start with the NFL and Colin Kaepernick or anything. I was listening to the radio today, local radio, talking about why Cleveland fans don't go to the games. I'm not a Cleveland fan. I'm a Dallas fan. But there's plenty of fans all around the league that are tuning out. And many are blaming it exclusively on Colin Kaepernick. And I, for one, despise Colin Kaepernick, but you can't blame him for all of this. This was a league that in the past few years, they've tried to pander to a bunch of people that they think that they're the future of the league fan base. And in the meantime, they're thinking, well, everybody else, all the people who've been watching football for decades, they're just going to take it on the chin. And that just wasn't the case. I think there were certain points where I started to see, yeah, they're pushing something, and they don't want anybody to oppose it. And one of them was the Kaepernick thing, but way before that was Michael Sam. And for those of you that don't know, Floyd and Pink probably won't know. This wasn't that big of a story outside of the United States. Michael Sam was the first gay athlete drafted into the NFL. He was drafted, I think, in 2014 by the then St. Louis Rams. And it was the biggest thing for like a couple of days, and people were saying, "Oh, this is beautiful. A gay guy gets drafted into the NFL." Now, no disrespect to the guy, but nobody gave a fuck who this guy was. He was a linebacker. Linebackers, are underappreciated in the NFL, but they're definitely going to be unappreciated if they're, probably going to be a backup and a rookie and everything. They're not going to be playing day to day. A lot of people, they go into the NFL as big linebackers, but they blend in. After a few years, they don't really make that big of a difference, which, I think that they're important to the defense, but it's very hard to make a huge name as a linebacker. Pinochet says, fucking Notre Dame. No, it's not Notre Dame. It was Mizzou. Notre Dame was Manti Te'o. He's confusing the two. Why does friggin' Facebook make me have to approve these comments? You guys you want to flip off Notre Dame? I don't care. My cause doesn't even have a football team, so why should I care? So Larry Gerke asks, transgender bathrooms, that was a big NFL thing. I don't remember that being that big. And then he asks, do you remember the movie Big League? I think you mean Major League. Yeah, of course I do. Of course I remember that. Pinochet says, gays all look alike to me. Well, anyway, this guy, he was a gay guy. And a lot of people around the league, first of all, we don't give a shit about gay rights. Because it does, they get their rights. What the fuck do we care? They get to fucking go to weddings. We never were like going to weddings in the first place. People who, like being on my stream probably don't want to go to weddings, I'm assuming. And then they go around and saying, oh, we have weddings now. Isn't that fabulous? Well, no, because the weddings that we had, that there were before, when you assholes couldn't get married, we don't want to go to either. Because you have to get a gift. You have to iron your shirt or whatever, take it to the dry cleaner. You have to squeeze into the pants and whatever. That's why, when Michael Sam got drafted into the league, it was another point where people were saying, oh, this is something where they're trying to force us to care about something that doesn't really matter. And it didn't really matter. Michael Sam never played a regular season down in the league. That means he didn't even play one single play in the league. And Pinochet encapsulated it very, very well. He says they moved from equality to revenge, and it was as quick as fuck. I think with the Michael Sam era, which was pretty brief, no, they weren't going for revenge, but they were going for telling us that this really is important. And honestly, nobody cared. And he got bounced around to one other team. I think he played on the Cowboys as a practice squad member, and then he was released, never played a single day in the NFL. And there actually have been gay players in the league in the past, but people didn't really first of all, they couldn't be open about it back then. And second of all, it's fucking football. Who gives a shit about that? People want to see violence on the field. They have the NFL is the expression of Americans' desire to see violence between people. It's not something where we're looking for some sort of big social breakthrough. It's just not the way it is. Floyd and Pink says in sport, meritocracy rules. Don't care if you're black, white, gay, whatever, best man takes the field. But well, ideally you would want it, but that's not the way it was 3 or 4 years ago when this Michael Sam guy got drafted. And there was another guy, Jason Collins, who had been in the NBA basketball. And one day he decides, he's going to admit that he's gay. And people started behaving like it's the most important thing ever. Like this is such a courageous step. The guy would have never played another game in the NBA, but now they had to sign him back because if they didn't sign him back, they would have looked homophobic. Now, I don't care if this guy, fucks, gravy boats or something, but I don't have to give a shit if, that's what you do and you still don't perform on the field. It doesn't matter to me. It's not that it doesn't matter to me because I accept you. It doesn't matter to me because I don't give a shit. And I think the majority of people who tune in for a sports spectacle, that's not what they have in mind. Okay, I don't think people who tune into figure skating, which has a lot more of those people, I don't think they care about that either. They don't care. It's stupid. People have a right not to give a fuck about what you're putting your junk in. Okay, and just like there's the gay wedding cake controversy. There's all that stuff in the United States. I'm going to go now to the topic of Jordan Peterson, who's a guy, a guy like us, but probably a bit smarter, psychologist from the University of Toronto. And apparently he got blocked from his Facebook account today. And this is a person who is, Loafer Wolf says, fucks up to you too. Welcome. Larry Gerke says, what the fuck, figure skating has hot steaming babes and leotards. Exactly. But not the dudes. The dudes are pretty, those dudes aren't looking at those women. Because if they did, they'd be hockey players and not figure skaters. So Psychology Today, which I used to look up to for, some information about, reliable psychology news. I don't really have to use them that often, but when I do, they usually put in good articles. And they have this article called The Meteoric Rise of Professor Jordan Peterson. And it goes a little like this. The courageous Canadian psychologist is saving psychology from political correctness. It says, we often hear people say they wish they had the fortune to purchase Microsoft or Apple or Amazon before those companies began their meteoric rise on the stock market. I am thrilled to be able to claim a similar rare pleasure. If psychologists were traded on Wall Street, I would now be rich. There's a decent chance, of course, that you still haven't heard of Jordan Peterson. After all, the general public doesn't get as excited about psychology professors as they do about the solar eclipse, the Super Bowl, or President Trump. But if you care about psychology, especially the way it's influencing education, culture, politics, history, and general mental health, do a search on Jordan Peterson. You will discover that he is currently the most sought-after psychologist in the world. He went viral not only in cyberspace, a relatively easy accomplishment, but also in the concrete worlds of print and TV. Professor Peterson has been interviewed by Kathy Newman on Channel 4 of the BBC. David Brooks of the New York Times described him as the most influential public intellectual in the Western world right now. That's actually not a compliment, getting a compliment from David Brooks, who's one of the dumbest people associated with conservatism right now. But let's say that matters. Like a rock star, he's filled huge theaters, and his new book, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, has become a #1 bestseller on Amazon. In fact, a couple of biographies of Peterson have already cropped up on Amazon. Amazingly, he has skyrocketed from relative obscurity to international celebrity in a couple of weeks. His flight to fame, though, was more than 2 weeks in the making. Peterson has been winding up the spring for a few years by posting lectures on his YouTube channel. A little over a year ago, he became politically vocal in response to a Canadian bill making it illegal to call a person by any gender pronoun other than that of his, her, cis, hers choice. At the threat of being sacked by the University of Toronto, he spoke out against this tyranny and became the subject of local news. The tipping point came a couple of weeks ago. The catapult was released, sending him into Earth orbit. And by the way, lest you think of Peterson as a right-wing homophobe, he has no objection to calling people by the gender pronouns of their choice. He just doesn't want the government to be able to punish you if you don't. So that's the guy. That's the guy. Holy shit. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Red equals green until 5 and 6 for 6 years ago. Then virtue money was introduced. Flamboyant is the word. I'm missing teeth. LOL. Oh my god, what the hell are you guys talking about? Yes, Jordan Peterson. Oh, because of gravy boats. Okay, so the so anyway, I think that Jordan Peterson, for those of you that are also catching on to it, this is a guy who basically he saw a trend coming. He saw the monster wave and he surfed it. He surfed it. He didn't cave to it. He waded out into the surf, and then he got up on the board, and then he rode the wave, and he's still riding the wave, and I'm hoping that the wave keeps going for him. Obviously, if these issues don't continue to be as problematic, the issues of the transsexuals who are trying to force new language on people, then nobody's going to care about his books in 5 or 6 years, because the issue will have been resolved. It'll kind of just dissipate. You know what I'm saying? The wave will dissipate. It'll break on the beach. But in the meantime, we are dealing with this issue of people who are thinking that they can dictate to you the way that you can talk, and the way you can express yourself in writing, and the way you can address others, and even your facial expressions, and the way you can basically sit on the subway or whatever. And that's what Jordan Peterson has used in order to catapult himself into the public consciousness, in order to bring about a change in the fabric of society. He's trying to bring back a society where people discussed things civilly and took responsibility for their actions. And the left has freaked out about it. And there was I did one of my peanut butter and jelly observations earlier. Some of you might have seen it, where I said that the leftist media, about both the mainstream leftist media and some of the people going further towards the fringe, like Mike, they are going up against him because because he's the perfect foil for them. He's in academia, but he's contradicting what they want, and B, because they're also afraid of him, because they don't want somebody who opposes them, who sounds rational and can have a civil conversation and can swing people. They want people opposing them who are inflammatory and generally, uncouth and misbehaving, and who can't control their emotions. This is I have to minimize the chat. You guys are driving me insane. Anyway, so this guy, he is basically their worst nightmare. Now, don't take the comparison I'm making too far, because I'm not making a comparison that's exactly on the same level. But why is it that people became so afraid of David Duke? It was not because David Duke was saying things that were so offensive and hateful, which he was saying some things that were offensive and hateful, and he still does. But it was because, unlike a lot of the typical racist leaders of the KKK in his era, or slightly before him, from the 60s and the 70s. David Duke's he dressed well. He had all his teeth. He was hygienic. He was well spoken. He was intelligent. He could debate people. He didn't object to being questioned. He was friendly with people in the media. He did not try to be this ogre. Exactly the opposite. He was the civil hate monger. And then today you have a couple people, for example, I'd say they do an even better job than David Duke, and they're not white supremacists. They call themselves white nationalists. But you have, for example, Richard Spencer. Now, I don't like Richard Spencer's ideas, but he's not a person who goes around and intimidates people and calls for threats on people's lives. To my knowledge, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but obviously people don't like the words coming out of his mouth because they promote a society based on white racial identity. So they want their ethno-state. Okay, so, and then you have Jared Taylor, who is even more of a mercurial, intelligent person. I've watched some of his lectures, and I personally have no problem having these people, as much as I disagree with their ideas and as much as I disagree with their solutions. I have no problem with them speaking in our society. The people who have the biggest problem with them are giving them the most power. And they're doing it by highlighting them and talking about how hateful they are, and complaining and giving all this attention and sunlight to them, thinking that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Well, sunlight is also sometimes the best fertilizer. Plants can't grow without sunlight, most of them. So they have a pathetically short-sighted strategy that's and it's failed with the alt-right. Okay, and then it's failed with people who are not the alt-right, and Jordan Peterson is not the alt-right. Jordan Peterson is a normal person. He's a psychologist who, very simply, he wants to promote a society where men and women take responsibility for their actions, and they are not guided by this social engineering, this social justice cult that he's seeing on his college campuses. And they're afraid of that because they're afraid that people will see they'll hear the voice of reason in Jordan Peterson, and then they'll abandon all of these adventurous causes. Now, social justice, by the way, I was thinking about it earlier while putting my shoes on, that these people, they believe in their minds that a civil war and a major confrontation between different ideologies, leftism and the far right, that is their destiny. They believe almost in an apocalyptic vision of society where they are the heroes holding back against the fascist encroachment. But if you look at their lifestyles, they're not very prepared for such a civil war. They're usually not the people who keep in the best physical shape. They're usually not the type of people who train well for survival, and they're usually not militarily trained. So they have to keep in mind that if we were really in a situation of fighting a massive fascist, totalitarian, militaristic enemy, that it could take a large human toll, and these people are obviously not prepared for that. You look at the toll it took to subdue the Japanese, going from island to island, eventually dropping atomic bombs on them, and many of them didn't surrender until years later. I think the last guy was surrendered like in the 90s or something, and the Germans too. The Germans. People think that, oh, they were Nazis, we defeated them and whatever, because they were wrong. Well, we defeated them, but it took a tremendous effort on the part of many countries that were, in some cases, they had diametrically opposed goals. The British and the Soviet Union, they were not very friendly before the war. The Soviet Union was not friendly with a lot of the countries before the war. So these countries, they came together with the common goal of defeating the Germans. Took a tremendous humanitarian toll. A lot of people had to die on both sides in order to, extinguish that threat to world peace, and it didn't achieve world peace. People think that World War II was a success, but World War II was just it was a catastrophic war. It was the worst war we ever had, but it was one more war in our history as a human race. And we've just seen other ones that are pretty bad. You know, the wars between India and Pakistan, for example. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy in that one? So these leftists, the people, and I use the term leftist very loosely. I mean, there's many. I mean, Larry also watches the Lionel Show. It's sometimes very hard to determine how serious and diligent these people are in knowing exactly what leftism entails. Okay, but there's a real issue here with these people who are quote unquote leftists in the United States. By the way, guys, please like the video and share the stream. The leftists in the United States are out of their fucking minds. They don't know what the hell fighting in a war means. That, you know, I was in an army. I was happy I didn't have to be in a war where, you know, that sometimes you can't find water or decent shelter. You know, you have to sometimes deal with infiltration and things like that of enemies, fifth columns and things like that. These people couldn't handle that. They couldn't handle anything close to that. They can barely handle the world as it is right now. And the means by which they fight the wars that they have now are just pathetic. And that gets me to the issue of the Kyle Kulinski quote scandal that I have right now. Did you see the Tommy Robinson interview with the Sikh from India? Wow, we're about 10 years behind. No, I haven't seen it. But maybe send me a link or something. So you have the Young Turks. They have this guy Kulinski. Kyle Kulinski. It says Young Turks affiliate and co-founder of ultra-progressive PAC's history of racist, sexist, and homophobic tweets. Now, I started watching a video, but the guy's too, snarky or whatever. I wasn't really interested in watching it to the end, but I will tomorrow, and I'll update you if I see anything that refutes this. But it says, tweets uncovered by the Gateway Pundit reveal a history of homophobia, sexism, and racism. Precisely what he spends so much time judging others for. We must speak out against racism, sexism, xenophobia, and all forms of bigotry, non-discrimination. Protections that currently apply to race, religion, and gender should be expanded to include the LGBTQ community and the atheist community. The PAC's platform page reads. He's talking about Justice Democrats. And then he says, if conservatives want with an apostrophe, want us to stop calling out racism, they should stop being racist. But then in 2012, he says, all Asians look the same. There, I said it. More recently, Kulinski noted that Asians aren't just yellow, but varying shades of beige too. This one wasn't quite that. I mean, it didn't really say anything that I thought was stupid. But then he says, things we all hate, Asian drivers. And then he uses the N-word several times. And then, several times. And then he lectures somebody else 10 days earlier. Okay? In 2016, Kulinski posted tweets in which he either implies that there is something wrong with being gay or uses homophobic slurs as insults. He says, thanks, faggot. And then he says, how much gay sex is happening at the RNC in Cleveland, do you think? Well, that one was kind of funny if you think, because there are people in the Republican Party who, they're too insecure about gays. And then it gets revealed that they themselves might be, polishing sausage or something. Kulinski also has a less than progressive view on women, including referring to them as cunts. Somebody get my bail money ready. Legit about to murder this loudmouth Italian lady and the cunt blasting her iPad says hashtag fuck waiting rooms. And then he says, hi, Mayo. Prostitutes got job security. I guess always going to be a dick to suck. Laugh my ass off. That's from 2011. And then he speculates who sucked more dicks in their life, Madonna or Britney Spears. He says Elizabeth Hasselbeck confuses his dick. Regarding singer Kesha, recently concluded a long battle with her former producer, Dr. Luke, who she claims had been sexually abusing her. Kulinski declared that she should write a song called I'm a Whore. And you know, that would be called slut shaming today. Following the Gateway Pundit's expose on racism and sexism from Justice Democrats co-founder Cenk Uygur, him and Kulinski both stepped down from the pack. Kulinski appears to have kept his relationship with the Young Turks intact. Now, I'll tell you what, if these people were, you know, normally behaving and they recognize the right to free speech and even to offensive speech, I would say I don't care what Kyle Kulinski and his secular talk say. But as it is, because they've created this witch hunt for people who don't speak correctly, that you know, they have, and you know, I spent the weekend with a bunch of people that were very, very, you know, direct in saying, you know, they had racial attacks on people that they don't like. Okay, and I don't agree with them, but I don't go and tell people where to start with their feelings about this group or another group, because honestly, it's not my place to tell them how to live their lives. And you know, I can tell them why I disagree, but you can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink. If I think that, you know, for example, we can build a free society with people of different backgrounds, religions, races, and you know, what we have to do is eliminate the you know, the forces that divide us, you know, namely the government and corporate media. Then, I mean, that's my idea, but other people have given up on that, or other people never believed in that to begin with. And I have to sell my vision to them. I can't sell my vision to them based on judgments that I make about whether they're a racist or not a racist. And that's what the Young Turks and Kyle Kulinski, that's what their tactic has been, to sell their public on the idea of judging others who don't believe the way that they do. And then they can go out into the public and act sanctimonious and say, you know, we're better than you guys. We're better than that. We can go out and embrace others, embrace, you know, these Muslims or the refugees or Salvadorans and MS-13 or transsexuals or whatever. That's all that they're about. The Mike people, the guy Jack Smith IV who criticized Jordan Peterson. All they have on their website is crap about the transsexuals and transsexual kids. And that's another thing on this very topic. In my day, you know, I'm putting on the fucking old man's hat. In my day, you said trans fucking sexual. None of this transgender bullshit. We said transsexual. Okay? That's what they were. And fuck them if they don't like it. When we were kids, they were called transsexuals, and then, you know, you'd make fun of them and talk about, you know, Eddie Murphy picking them up by mistake as a hooker or something. You used to be able to make fun of these idiots who dressed up like chicks or whatever, and now they think, oh, we get a pass because for some reason Kyle Kulinski thinks that we're a protected minority. Fuck you. You are, and you always were, transsexuals. And just because you think that you have some sort of vulnerability doesn't mean people can't make fun of you. And you know, that's the truth. Okay, you want to be you want to be different, fine. You want people not to make fun of you, fuck that. We've all been made fun of for something. That's why you have people hiding behind these screen names like Pinochet and Floyd and Pink. Who knows why they hide behind those? There's got to be a reason. Who cares? You know, everybody's got a reason somebody made fun of them. But when you do something that makes you obviously the subject of ridicule, and then you complain about being the subject of ridicule, you're going to be ridiculed. And that's my opinion on why Kulinski and his whole band of idiots, these fake virtue signaling retards, they have to be just they have to get their nuts chopped off. They have to be transsexual by people like this Cassandra Fairbanks, the woman who wrote that article with all his idiotic tweets. You can't say Floyd and Pink says my real name's Razor Ray. Yeah, you must know me from somewhere, because that's the. Did you find me from that article I wrote from what was it? Hard News Network, because that's my name on the Hard News Network. By the way, guys, I wrote another article on the Hard News Network about the Cleveland Indians. But there you go. You can't say retard. You can't say transsexual. You can't say handicapped. You can't say anything anymore, because people are insecure about their fucking, not getting their genitals stuck in the gravy boat. Floyd and Pink says from Hard Bastard. Yeah. Thanks for joining me. I mean, Hard Bastard is a fun show. The guy has this philosophy that, it's very much along the lines of what I'm talking about. Let people do what they want, but you can still make fun of them, and that's fine. And people can come on here and make fun of me. I mean, you guys all, Floyd and Pink, for example, disagreed with me on the on my characterization of Roger Waters. Fine. I mean, you can like Roger Waters. I think he's a piece of shit. But, that's why he can make his own channel, put on his show, talk about why I'm full of shit. And, we can have a dialogue or whatever. Kyle Kulinski, that's not okay with him. It's all or nothing for him. And one final point before we move on to a little bit about the FISA memo. Not going to go too long about that. He made and went a video, and I put the video in the description, where he's complaining about right-wing bloggers smearing his name and trying to get him, I don't know if he would be removed from the Young Turks or whatever, but he's complaining with them. He's complaining about the right-wing bloggers. Listen, Right Wing Watch, which is a left-wing organization, has been smearing people as Nazis all month. All month they've been calling Andy Warski a Nazi. I love his show. Can't say it all the time. It's just too long. Nice job, Pinochet. But it's ridiculous. There's they have Right Wing Watch. They go and they call Styx Hexenhammer a right wing fanatic. They had Lionel Nation called a right wing fanatic. Makes absolutely no sense. If you listen to him, he's for universal health care. You fucking morons. He's not right wing. He's not. He's against. What else is he for? I think he was against stop and frisk or something. He's not a right wing person at all. And like Floyd and Pink is saying, Right Wing Watch is a fucking joke. It is a joke. Larry Gerke says, geez, bold like a leopard, harsh, lighten up on the trans. Listen, Larry Gerke, I want to tell you something. When we were kids, we called them transsexuals, and they weren't everywhere, okay? That's the way it was, and that's the way it will return to being. It's a fucking fad. Nobody cares now. I'm sorry, guys, but they can live their lives, but it doesn't mean that we have to just be on, walking on eggshells around people just because they're different. I get made fun of for certain things. You guys make fun of for certain things. That's the way it is. And I think some of these transsexual people, not transgender. I don't know who the fuck had that distinction made. Some of them are probably trying to lead normal lives. Not like Loafer Wolf is saying, but maybe. So it's the thin edge of the wedge. Yeah, you guys are having fun with this topic today. I don't often talk about it, but it has to be said that because of this Caitlyn Jenner thing, and because of, if you've ever seen that Lactatia, that child transsexual thing, or drag queen, whatever that kid is, I believe that we have to just ignore all the bullshit that they're trying to say and go back to the reality that it was before. Go back to the reality where people could just say whatever they wanted and not have to abide by these speech codes. And these speech codes have been spreading. It spread at the University of Michigan. They had a bunch of words that you couldn't say to anybody, words that could be construed as ableist or as hostile to foreigners or whatever. Listen, I didn't go to college so you could tell me what the fuck to say. Everybody's saying the Vrol's here, but I haven't seen him yet. Larry Gerke, man. 3-year-old transitioning. I don't know about the 3-year-old. I've heard stories about those, but the one I'm thinking of, I think, is 9, which is also fucked up. You know, when I was let's be clear, and don't tell me that it was different for you guys. But when we were kids, they were called transsexuals, and we didn't give a fuck what they thought. We could say whatever we wanted, and they could say whatever they wanted, and the world was fine. Nobody died. I mean, people died, but people die all the time. You know what I'm saying? The FISA memo. First of all, I have a tweet from Julian Assange in the description where he shows James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, which means that he was Barack Obama's bitch in terms of being the head of the intelligence services. He says that if there was a FISA memo that was based on spurious and unverified information, he would have known about it. And then he denies that he knew about it. So there was one, and he said that he would have known about it if there was one, but then he denies that there was one. So this is a guy, he's lied before Congress before. You know, he lied about mass surveillance of civilians in the United States. That was revealed to be true by Edward Snowden. He's a complete liar, and all the people involved on the government side, whether it's Comey or whether it's Admiral Rogers or whether it is James Clapper, who's the other guy, John Brennan, another weirdo that Obama hired. They're all lying pieces of shit. And I think eventually one of them has to be, or one or all of them has to be indicted for perjury. It's over. Why do we have to continue to have these people go on CNN? There must be consequences. Something must be there has to be a verdict from this whole process. Carter Page is suing Robert Mueller. By the way, there is grounds to think that he could collect on it, because Mueller has basically dragged his name through the mud for nothing. There's been no actual revealed illegal activity, by the way. So what the fuck are we talking about? This guy, Carter Page, they dragged his name through the mud for meeting a guy who might have been in some way associated with Putin. But if you have people in the media doing the same thing, nobody gives a shit. Loverwolf says, not only that, they were called fags. Yeah, probably. Floyd and Pink says, we called them freaks, but live and let live. Pinochet says, I almost had a transvestite hooker in Tacoma, Washington, but my mother got in a fist fight with it. Look, everybody has a story. I remember I went to a coffee shop with a friend of mine, and this dude who was taller and thicker than me, and I'm a big guy, came in with like friggin' makeup on and pink hair and started trying to talk to all the dudes. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And that is a reaction that is legitimate. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what, Larry says, go easy on him. Look, it's them who choose to live the way that they do. Maybe you say that it's not a choice, but they choose to be, flamboyant about their decisions. Now you have these trans agists. There's that dude who's like 55 years old who chooses to live as a 12-year-old girl. No, I'm not going to legitimize this and pretend that, I'm going to be walking on my tippy toes about these people just because they choose to be, to live their true self or whatever. Well, my true self is to make fun of their true self when I find it amusing. Um, Floyd and Pink says Google the 3-year-old story is true. Can't post the links here. I've heard of that story. I don't think that's the most egregious story. I mean, it is pretty fucked up, but the most egregious story I think is that 9-year-old that they parade around as a drag queen and he's winning all these drag contests or whatever. That in my opinion is pretty disgusting. Um, the FISA memo. So remember, tomorrow the Democrats release their FISA memo. They're saying a lot of it is based on just a lot of hearsay and crap that, as first of all, some of it is based on a drunken conversation that George Papadopoulos had at a bar. Then a lot of other innuendo. Why have a congressional case based on this? There's other ways to investigate it. And Loafer Wolf says, "Bold, you need new friends." Why do you say that? That's pretty. It's pretty mean, man. It's pretty mean. Why are you being? Why are you trying to hurt my feelings, dude? So, I think that's about it for today. But remember, yeah, Pinochet says, yeah, lactatia. It's disgusting. Look, keep your eye out for the DNC memo tomorrow, or the Democratic faction memo for tomorrow. There's going to be more information coming out regarding this Mueller probe, and I think with every single step, you're just going to see more of the look. Everybody is trying to get Donald Trump boxed in a corner and say, "Oh, you can't fire Mueller. You can't fire Mueller." I don't think he needs to fire Mueller. The more he discredits Mueller, the less anybody is going to believe these Democrats. Adam Schiff is already backing himself into the corner. He doesn't have any evidence. There's no new leads. There's no progress on the investigation, and all he's doing is crying about Devin Nunes releasing his information or whatever. Well, guess what? You're not in charge, bitch. And that's it for tonight. Floyd Pink says, "Thanks for the stream, bold like a leopard." Thanks for joining me, guys. I mean, it was after the Super Bowl. I know it was very sudden. Please leave your comments below. Share the stream, share the channel, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video. And remember, in my day, they said transsexuals. They didn't say transgender.